Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Sylvia.
So we hear that you have another beautiful little quote message for the group of 100. So I'll just tune in and you can start.
Hmm.
Okay, beautiful. Oh, sorry, light going. Okay. Greetings, dear souls. Greetings. What do you have for us today?
Greetings and welcome. I found an interesting quote that I'd like to read out, and I'll read out a section at a time because it's quite long. And I'd like your opinion because it's how I'm sort of feeling right at the moment. And the, um, the topic is called "Why Do I Feel So Numb? No Motivation After a Spiritual Awakening."
Very useful, Anthony. Thank you for finding this. We
Hmm.
hope this is a very important topic and we hope people will be able to benefit perhaps from anything we can offer.
Hmm. Okay, so I'll.
Oh, excuse us. This one has a frog today.
Hmm.
Yes, we are the group of 100. Sananda is quite present with us today.
Hmm.
Yes.
Very good. Okay. Why do I feel so numb now that I finally see the truth? There's a strange paradox here. We expect spiritual awakening to ignite our passion, but for so many, especially the deeply introspective types, the empaths, the seekers, it does the opposite. It empties us. This is an example of a relayed experience from a woman that had a massive awakening after a dark night of the soul. She got it. She said she saw through the illusion of identity, the ego chasing external success, and yet 2 months later, she was staring at her ceiling, barely able to get out of bed. I used to cry over not achieving enough. Now I don't care whether I do anything at all. I thought awakening would light me up, not leave me like this.
Yes. Thank you, Anthony. Well, dear souls, all of you who are feeling this way, we send you our love and our healing, and we say, yes, this indeed is a stage that, as you say, not all, but some will pass through in the awakening process. It is a gear change, a gear shift, when life can no longer be approached in the same way, but the new is not fully in place. How can the new be fully in place if the old has been lived rigorously and vigorously for the lifetime of the person in question? The word surrender has been used for many, many years. We know this one in her early healing training, that this word was indeed a great gateway for her to pass through, because it was the only thing that explained what could possibly be done. Because there was nothing else to be done, because the brain could not comprehend the new. The brain did not want to just put the new in another box of thinking mode, because the new is beyond the brain. The new, more usually in a spiritual awakening, is the shift from head to heart, is the shift from solid action to maybes and possibilities and curiosities. It is a feeling the way forward, as opposed to the blasting forth with the confidence of the ego mind, which likes to control and has lived within a limited sphere of control and understanding, and indeed will, as it were, plough forward with that and get it done. And suddenly, in this, what can feel like numbness, yes, there seems to be nothing to get done. But this moment of recalibration where you realize I am no longer committed or even perhaps addicted or overly focused on the passions of my past, the goals of my past, this whole idea that every single thing I do needs to have a goal. These are indeed very 3D structures, and across the world you will all be feeling this at some time now. This is good and a natural shift, and if it feels numb for a while, all we can ask you is please reframe it as much as you can into this idea that you are in a state of surrender, which means yes, there are no answers, yes, there is a falling away, yes, you are surrounded by an unknown field, but it does not need to involve a numbness which implies lack of feeling, because indeed it is more that the numbness is the body trying to organize the fact that once its motor was brain and now its motor wants to become heart. So yes, there is a stoppage, a stopping, a confusion point where this shift happens in the being. But again, once this gear change is fully made and the surrender is made, these incremental layers of feeling start to emerge. And this is where the new sensibilities start to develop, and where the new frequencies of the soul are going to be birthed. They are going to be birthed into this new state of surrender. Is this answering any of this?
Yes, very much so.
Good, good.
It's, this next part is a bit more, well, Carl Jung, when the unconscious becomes conscious. And it's a quote: enlightenment doesn't come from imagined figures of light, but from the darkness conscious.
What was the last bit, please?
Sorry, enlightenment doesn't come by imagined figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And then the rest says, I'll explain a bit more.
Yes.
Awakening isn't the end, it's the beginning of a psychological death.
Yes.
The death of who you thought you were and the structures that gave your life meaning, goals, careers, relationships, even your sense of time all collapse. But your ego isn't gone, it's confused. It's lost its map. And without a new map, motivation disappears. So it's not that you're depressed or lost motivation, you're just in limbo. You've woken up from something, but you haven't woken up to something else yet. This feeling right now isn't failure, it's depression or anxiety in the clinical sense. It's something ancient and sacred. The sacred pause, this void, this in-between is essential for true self-awareness, the process of becoming your authentic self.
Yes. This indeed is a very beautiful and marvelous quote again. Is this all from this woman who...
No, this is Carl
Oh,
Jung.
this again is Carl Jung. This whole quote here is Carl Jung.
This one is Carl Jung,
Yes,
yes.
he is a very wise soul, indeed a great soul. And indeed, he is just coming in around us now as we speak to
Wow.
you. Yes, and he is yes. This is perfectly expressed, is it not? And indeed, in our short offering that we have made, we offered much of this. Yes,
Mm.
just to say, yes, it is that you have woken up, but what have you woken up to is really the question, isn't it?
Mm.
And of course, this is about what you said at the very beginning. What is the nature of this new world of feeling and awareness? What is it going to feel like to be aligned with this new sensibility, this new world? And of course, it is because it is a heart-centered consciousness, and this is the one that unifies the galaxies, that all galactic worlds of light operate through the heart. This is why it is said on planet Earth that love is the answer, and that love will certainly bind and go beyond any religious structure, for example, because it is this heart-centered frequency that is the universal language. But it takes a time to move into the ability to speak this language and to shift one's focus from outward doing to inward being. And a bastion of the inward being becomes, after this time of, as it were, numbness in the void, as this quote says, it is not clinical states of depression or darkness that are occurring, but they can feel like that. So it is important, is it not, to not try to name this, be patient and not need to name this state, at least for, several months, to allow time for these shifts to happen. And there is a great tendency on the planet for any difference in the way of thinking or being in a human, for example, those that are autistic or on a spectrum, for these all to be named and labeled. Yes, I am on a spectrum. Yes, I am this. Yes, I am that. We are saying, of course, there is a great claiming of self within this for some, but there is also possibly an avoiding of this very state that you are naming, which is, it's all new and it doesn't feel the same, and I'm confused and there must be something wrong with me. But this is not the case. There need be nothing wrong with you. You are just feeling differently about life. You are now choosing a different experience on this planet. You are choosing, as we talked about in our last session that we shared, to open the gate into the internal being, to open the gate into your inner world, and to start living from this inner consciousness. And in the inner consciousness is, of course, the place where we will greet you, and your other guidance and angelic and celestial teams will greet you in this place. Source energy will be with you every moment of every day in this place, if you invite it, if you let it, if you listen to this new language that your inner God spark is attempting to awaken within you. So, yes, there is nothing clinical about the oddness of this time. It is simply odd. It is new. It is confusing. And just to ride and to be as patient as possible, and to trust that through the heart, the new world will form within you. Now, we just want to add here that as this heart is awakening, any lost aspects of self-care are going to arise. And of course, self-nurture and self-care are talked about a lot and offered in many channeled messages at this time, but the truth is that self-care and self-nurture means that you have started to dialogue with your inner being, and it is able to say to you, I need this, I need some touch, I need some healing touch, I need to be immersed in water, I need to laugh with friends, I need to be stimulated by I can't listen to anything that is of such a dense frequency, it simply doesn't resonate with me anymore. I cannot hear it. My ears will not receive it. I seek new input, and this is where the searching and the inner listening will guide you to those places in your daily life where you will meet the people and find the words and find the information and begin to hear the truth. Indeed, as Jung says, this is essential for the birthing of the authentic self. And this is meaning that once the authentic self is starting to come online, it is seeking truth, and it does not want the old truths that were shared by the media or some person with an opinion. It seeks the primordial truth. It seeks the ancient spiritual laws and cosmic laws, the truths of these cycles on the planet. And when it hears them, it recognizes them. And it goes, this is a framework for me to grow from. This is an understanding that seems to fit me now. So I will use this as a base or as a thought, or I will hold it to me for the moment, and I will see what living life within this structure feels like. And then, of course, over time, this begins to refine and build and lead to new sets of action. But there is this time where all feels dense and confused. How are we going here, Anthony? Is this useful?
Yes, very, very useful. This is another little section again. For most of your life, your motivation came from your ego identity, the me you thought you were. You wanted to prove to yourself to be seen, to be successful, to be loved. This is a mask we wear to function in society, but the awakening process strips the mask suddenly. You're not trying to be liked. You're not trying to win the game because you see the game. But without the mask, your old goals don't fit anymore. They were tailored to a version of you that doesn't exist. So now you're like a character in a play who stepped off stage and can't figure out what their lines are anymore. That's why you feel unmotivated. You didn't lose drive. You outgrew the fuel that powered it.
Yes, this is Very fine and resonant analogy, we feel, indeed. Because it is indeed a limited fuel of the ego mind. And this is hard. There is the point before this numbness and surrender that you are talking about, Anthony, which indeed, if you are experiencing, you would have felt. There is a moment where the ego mind is still just trying to explain everything away. Yes, and still really thinks it has a handle and it's fine. It can take in a little bit of the heart stuff and a little bit of the spirit stuff, and yeah, it's all good. I can do all that. I can. We called it for a time. There was a name on your planet. Which was it? A spiritual. I think one of your great teachers, the Ken Wilber, describes it as I think. Translation as opposed to transmutation. We cannot remember the words, but the translation is like you take a spiritual idea and you move it around. So I do my little bit of yoga and I do my bit of chanting and I get a massage every week, or I do some meditation, and I believe that that is my spiritual awakening. But often that is just using indeed this greater fuel, but accessing it and still controlling it with the ego mind, which wishes to have a unified and balanced and controlled life. So the real fuel, when it emerges, is a momentous force. It is an infinite supply, and it is organic, and it can be wild, and it contains within it passion and colors and new frequencies which have never been heard, and unknowns that are yet to be explored. It contains a very wide field. This is the field. The field is a huge and vast place, and it contains all knowing, and the fuel of source energy, of God, of God's spark, lives in this field. And when this field is connected to and surrendered, then suddenly the whole nature of the whole, what is wholeness, what is whole, changes. Because this fuel supply, as has been said, is now infinite and unnameable. As we have said, the one of 1,000 names that yet transcends all names is this divine flow when it is finally contacted within. Are we on track here?
Yes, very much so. And we're getting near the end, hopefully. Carl Jung believed that we're not here to serve the ego. We're here to integrate it, to align it with something bigger. The journey of transformation from a fragmented identity into a whole unified self, not the small self that wants praise, but the self that transcends the soul level center inside you, that connects to everything. And this self doesn't care about status or approval or even clarity. It's here to express truth. So once the awakening happens, your psyche starts recalibrating. It begins rejecting anything fake, forced, or ego-based. That includes jobs, relationships, ambitions, and even your carefully crafted dream board. This is why people often describe awakening as both freeing and disorientating. But if we stop here, we get stuck. Some people awaken and fall into the trap of spiritual bypassing, convincing themselves that nothing matters, that it's all just illusion. So they disconnect, float, and numb out. They confuse this detachment with disengagement. But the self wants something different. It wants to live through you. It wants to bring heaven into the human body. It doesn't reject the world. It redefines your role in it. In order to step into that, you got to go through a weird middle phase. You sit silent, unable to explain yourself while the world keeps rushing by.
This is indeed magnificent words, and indeed we could have stopped you at every line, Anthony, because we are not retaining all of the things on offer in this last section, and this one was distracted for a moment, but certainly we will just address something towards the end here, which was the idea of what really happens within the body, this idea of embodiment. So we indeed addressed much of what you said here, and the term, of course, we were talking about the state of what is called spiritual bypass. Yes, we were explaining that in our previous offering, that spiritual bypass indeed has been quite a current act in the so-called New Age movement. It will be known in future times, looking back on the time where the so-called New Age movement that was originated, that it indeed was also really controlled in actuality by the dark. And that the ingredients of it were all pure and good, but it is what is sold as the goal, or what is sold as. So, for example, if the goal is to become super successful and to run your business in every most successful way you can, and to use your yoga and your fitness and your healthy eating as a power tool to be able to be this potent business running person in the world, surely you are still living within a construct to some extent. This marriage of the ego self with the broader self, what is called now the higher self, which is the aspect of you closest to your Godhead, yes, often will involve a fragmentation of this very world that you have worked so hard to build. And this, of course, can be very distressing for many and very misunderstood. And people can indeed believe that they are depressed and confused, and whereas really the shift is happening within them. And embodiment is a very key word in current practices. And we like this word very much because in its essence, it contains the solution to spiritual bypass. Because spiritual bypass is, as you have said, Anthony, where the head, the finer sensibilities and finer sensitivities pull back from life and living and move into a little bit of a fuzzy, we could call it spiritual cloud, but it is the version of spiritual which is more the woo-woo, in the negative aspect of that. Meaning that it is a bit cloudy and a bit all loving, with lots of hearts and flowers, and that indeed it does not contain within it this organic strand which leads to true embodiment in the being, this true organicity, this true shifting of cells in the human self. This is really where you feel, I am changed, I am new, something different is pulsing in my body. I am living to the beat of a different drum. I am the body is wishing to do different things with my day. And this is where indeed the finest frequencies of the spiritual fuel, this infinite Godhead fuel, comes down and connects into the cells of the human. And this is, of course, when the new structures of being start to emerge. And this is why this work done within each individual is so blessed and honored by us who look at you from afar, because the humans doing this work, as they change themselves and reformat their own being, they are then able to emanate this out to all those around them, and indeed to the grid of the planet itself. And this is how we have arrived at this extraordinary moment in history, where the planet is ready to rise. And so many on the planet are, and if not currently, in future over the next couple of years, will be ready to rise with her. And this indeed is to do with this full embodiment and this moving out of the bypass into actual spiritual alignment. We could call it a certain rigor, and we use that word only because it is not always pretty. If you have been living in any aspect of yourself in the cloud, in the spiritual cloud, if you have been bound by the ego mind, there is a period of dissolution that is going to happen. And this is the period where this so-called numbness and, very disconcerting energies can come upon you. But this is where also a key aspect in this moment is this one, certainly in her journey, this requires a full embracing of the aspect of trust. This is where the words trust and faith and hope become real. People dismiss these words as perhaps woo-woo, but if people understand, these are words that describe great spiritual discipline in their heart. The first one, in this period of confusion you are talking about, all that you probably have access to is hope. I hope that I feel better tomorrow. I hope that this angst moves off me soon. I hope that I start to recognize myself again soon. And then after that comes, a little bit of, I see that happened and that happened, so I can trust that. So then we have the building of trust, and then once trust becomes again solid, after it has been tested and tested and tested, then from that we are into the new cycle, which is the cycle of faith and homecoming and recognition of all that is divine within you. And this is where the peace that is long broadcast as being contained within spiritual alignment, this is where the great peace can begin to manifest in your life. Yes.
I'll finish off with this final one. I've got a lot more, but it gets a bit in depth, too much in depth, really, to a certain degree.
Okay.
Living symbolically, not in fantasy, but with soul, where you begin to trust your inner imagery, dreams, synchronicity, gut feelings as guidance. So what does this look like in real life? Sometimes it's simply as asking different questions Instead of what should I do, ask what's quietly calling me. Instead of what's the plan, ask where is life nudging me. Instead of how can I prove myself, ask what feels honest. Then you begin to participate with life instead of trying to dominate it.
Yes.
That doesn't mean giving up ambition. It means transforming it. Ambition becomes devotion to truth, to presence and growth. And the irony is that kind of energy gets things done way more efficiently than ego ever could. But now it's sustainable. Now it's soul powered. This is the self motivation, not to impress, but to express. And it often leads you to create, serve, heal, teach, and build. Not because you should, but because your whole being says yes. So if you're feeling like your spark is gone after awakening, it's the old fire that burned down so that you could find a deeper flame, one that doesn't flicker when external winds blow. This is not an easy path. And if you're listening to this, you're already walking the path. It's not about getting back your motivation. It's about discovering a new one rooted in wholeness, not performance. This isn't the end of your awakening, it's the beginning.
Yes. Well, what more can be said? These
Yeah.
are the words.
Mm.
This is, we particularly liked the first sentence, which we could have replied to, but yes, it is not that, it is, as you say, it is not that ambition goes away, but it becomes a great soul-powered drive. And with its own rhythms and its own needs. And yes, the fulfillment in this place is so much greater than simply the one that, you know, fed the needs and desires of the ego on its own. When the ego can be offered up with all its skills, with all its brilliance of mind, when it can be offered up and used as one of the tools of this greater purpose, then indeed we do have the inward sacred union. We have the sacred marriage of masculine and feminine within the self. The dominant aspect of the ego, which is often associated with the dominant left brain, when it meets the finer sensibilities of the deep feminine, then we are indeed talking about a hierogamic union, the ancient blending of masculine and feminine. And through this portal, we pull in the alignment to spirit, and we are in the divine and ancient triangulation of this divine portal through which the being will then surrender to this higher point in the triangle, the higher self, and with both the masculine and the feminine working in perfect balance to serve this higher union within the self. And this, as you say, as this quote so beautifully says, there is a lightness here, there is an ease here, and indeed there is much passion and much joy and much satisfaction here, but it is sitting within a different context of recognition. And as you say, it is all about the questions that we ask.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed, the reformatting of the thought forms for the human are key to enter this state. Yes, how can I be of service? What am I feeling in this moment? What do I need in this moment? How can I offer more in this moment? How can I, is it time to open and ask for assistance at this time. Can I please have assistance to sort out this issue at this time? Yes, from my divine helpers. These are all ways of operating within this new system that indeed makes awakening a very joyous place to be. And indeed, it is a journey. that doesn't stop either, but it is, we are ever ongoing. This is the truth about the life of the soul. As with any other pinnacle or achievement, once we enter through this portal into awakening, then of course we are just simply on the path to the next level of awakening within our being. But yes, this one that you have named today, this moment in time, this is a very key shift in the evolution of the human, leading to greater communion with each other and certainly with the light and with the forces of love. So if this is very beautiful offering today, Anthony, is this complete?
Yes, I think so.
Yes. What a wonderful journey that you have offered. And were all these words of the Jung, all of these?
Yeah, most of them were, yes.
Most of them were, yes, indeed, a master. So
Mm.
perhaps we will enjoy more of these dialogues with the masters that we have been starting on. Yes.
Mm.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We feel filled by this illuminated human wisdom, this great soul who came to illuminate the planet, and that his words are still ringing forth in truth at this key time on the planet. This is a wonderful thing to honor, that all the great wise beings of spirit who have done their time, as it were, on planet Earth, that the work is remembered and still able to be create maps to live by. This was always the goal of all beings of light, to offer maps for the human to grow from and with. Thank you, dear soul. Thank you, dear Anthony, for this time. Thank you, dear one. Thank you, all beloveds who are listening. We hope this is a useful and interesting discussion point for you all. We will see you again. We will leave you now with infinite love, as always. Blessed be. Beautiful. Wow, that was gorgeous, Anthony. Beautiful.